Who do you think makes the scariest stories? For me, probably Czechs. Quite an unexpected answer for you, I suppose. But those who grew up watching their fairy tale movies will definitely understand. But today, we are here to talk about the scariest Beauty and the Beast story, which, as you might have guessed, is also Czech. So, enjoy! The story is called Little Rose, and it starts quite innocently with a merchant who had, of course, 3 daughters. They were all lovely little creatures, but his youngest one was the most beautiful and gentle creature of them all. One day, the merchant had to go to a city fair, and he told his daughters that he could bring them anything they want. The oldest 2 asked for the dresses and the jewels, but the youngest one only wished for a rose. And not just any rose, the most beautiful that the world has ever seen. And so the merchant left. At the city fair, he sold a lot and bought a lot. He earned so much that he could buy his oldest daughters all the dresses and all the jewels they wanted. But he couldn't find a single rose, lest the most beautiful one, for you see, it was autumn already, and no amount of gold could get him this tender flower. And so he head home, sad that he'd have to leave his favourite daughter without a present. And so deep were his unhappy thoughts that the merchant never noticed he was lost. And so the men roamed the forest, unable to find the escape, until he reached a forest clearing which had a single bush, which had a single rose. And so beautiful was this flower that the man couldn't look away. But the second he snapped the flower stem, a monster appeared in front of him. The man fell on his knees, begging not to kill, and to save his poor soul he offered every single coin of gold he had and more. But the monster laughed and told the man to bring the first living creature that will meet him upon arrival. Oh, how the man prayed for a cat or a dog to be the first to greet him, and how his heart sank when he saw his favourite little daughter. But, oh well, the girl had a big heart, and she couldn't let the monster kill her father. So she took the cursed flower and went to the place that her father so feared. Upon arrival, she screamed as loud as she could for the monster to appear, but instead, the earth below her legs opened up, and she fell down. When she opened her eyes, she saw a creature so horrible in appearance that she couldn't help but scream. But the monster had a lovely voice, and in that lovely voice he said that she is free to do anything throughout the day, but at night, no matter what, she couldn't say a word. So he said and disappeared into the thin air. Oh, what else could the poor girl do? She looked around and found a castle made fully out of black marble. She explored it throughout the day, and at night fell soundly asleep, not realizing what waits ahead. But the second the clock struck midnight, she heard the most horrifying, blood-curdling noises coming from the outside, and at that, a myriad of monsters flew into her room. With their claws, they scratched and tore the poor girl's skin. But, true to her words, or maybe out of shock, she remained silent throughout the night. She woke up, all bruised and bloody, and the beast tended to her wounds, begging her to keep her silence this night as well. Oh, how could she say no to that? For, you see, his voice, so unexpectedly lovely and affectionate, touched her gentle heart. And his face wasn't as ugly this time. In fact, even the castle was now 1/3 made of white marble. The following night, Beauty had an uneasy sleep, and once again, at midnight, she started hearing roars and growls coming closer and closer to her, until the monsters burst into her room and swooped on the girl like locusts in a blooming meadow. They beat and dragged her by the hair. They tortured her throughout the night. And yet, she kept her promise and didn't utter a single cry. In the morning, the castle was 2/3 white, but Beauty could barely move to appreciate its new glory. So strong was the pain. And yet again the beast appeared and begged her not to cry for just one more night. And now that she looked at him, her heart filled with happiness, and she wished for their conversations to last longer, and without him she felt sad. But this night she couldn't fall asleep. She knew what lay ahead of her, and she was terrified. Finally the midnight struck, and the hordes of monsters, ugly and vicious like never before, burst into her chamber. No person alive should endure what she lay through that night, and yet she kept silence. But when they started ripping her body apart, she couldn't last any longer, and the girl let out the most chilling, most heart-stopping scream. At that moment, the castle itself shook, and the monsters disappeared, and her pain disappeared as well. But she wasn't dead, because at that moment a handsome young man appeared before the girl. He explained that he's the prince, the owner of the castle, and the lord of these lands. And it was he who was the beast all along. An evil witch cursed him many years ago and only now is he free of it. So, in the end, Beauty got her happy ending with the prince. But let's hope she won't have to relieve her sufferings, even in a dream. And if you want to ask, why did the poor girl got the good ending, despite breaking her promise? Well, I'm afraid I don't have the answer. I am a mere narrator in this story, but even a humble narrator is allowed to have fun. That's why today I have a special costume on. Would you like to guess which character I am? I admit I can't draw to save my life, but if you've done your Russian literature homework, this game should be a good enough hint. Well, that's it for today. Thanks for listening, and don't forget to subscribe. Пока-пока.